The pasta sauce simmered on the stove, filling our kitchen with the scent of basil and garlic. I'd spent nearly an hour chopping vegetables, browning meat, and stirring in Emma's favorite spices. Tuesday night dinner was our tradition. My cooking, her wine selection, our time. 12 years together, and these small rituals still mattered. I glanced at my watch. Emma would be home in 15 minutes, right on schedule. Predictable, comfortable hours. I smiled, thinking about how we'd met at freshman orientation. She'd laughed at my terrible jokes about chemistry majors, and I'd walked her home in the rain. Both of us soaked and giddy with that new feeling. The one where you just know. We were inevitable, everyone said so. College sweethearts who never had that awkward breakup phase. We got married at 22 in Emma's parents' backyard. Strings of lights hanging from the trees, our friends giving embarrassingly honest toasts. 8 years of marriage later, we had our small suburban house. 2 cats who ruled the place, matching morning routines. And plans. Always plans. Children after my 10-year review and her MBA. A bigger house someday. Maybe that trip to Italy we kept pushing off. Future things. Certain things, because we were Daniel and Emma Wright, the couple everyone pointed to when they wanted proof that some people just get it right the first time. I heard the front door open, then close. Emma's keys clinked in the ceramic bowl by the door. The one she'd made in that pottery class 3 years ago. "Smells amazing in here," she called out. I heard her kick off her heels, then pad into the kitchen in her stockinged feet. She came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and pressed her cheek between my shoulder blades. "A Tuesday like any other. Penne arrabbiata," I said, turning to kiss her. "And whatever fancy wine you brought home?" Emma smiled, holding up a bottle of red. "Cabernet. Goes with spicy," she replied, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, a few strands escaping around her face. Beautiful in that familiar way that still caught me sometimes, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled, the small freckle beneath her right eye. We moved around each other with practiced ease. Me finishing dinner, her setting the table, both of us talking about our days. Normal, perfect, the life we'd built brick by careful brick since we were 19 years old. Halfway through dinner, Emma set down her fork. The small clink against the plate shouldn't have sounded so loud. "Danny, we need to talk," she said quietly. 5 words. 5 ordinary words that somehow shifted the air in the room, made it thinner, harder to breathe. I put down my own fork, my appetite suddenly gone. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my voice casual, even as something cold slid down my spine. Emma fidgeted with her napkin, folding and refolding the corners. "I love you. You know that, right?" "I've always loved you," she began hesitantly. The cold feeling intensified. "Nobody starts with that unless what comes next is going to hurt." "I know," I responded. "I love you too," she nodded, still not meeting my eyes. "I've been thinking a lot lately. About us, about me, about the future," she continued. "The MBA? If you're worried about the money," I started. "No, not that," she interrupted. She took a deep breath, then finally looked up at me. "Danny, you're the only man I've ever been with, ever, since I was 19. I nodded slowly. This wasn't news to either of us. We'd both been virgins when we met, had learned everything together, grown up together in every way. "And I've been happy," she continued. "So happy with you. But before we have children, before we're too old, I think I want to experience other men." Her words rushed out now, just physically. "It wouldn't mean anything. I'd always come back to you. You're my husband, my best friend. This would just be exploring. Something I need to do before we start the next phase." The kitchen tilted around me. The pasta on my plate congealed in real time. I stared at my wife, as if she'd suddenly started speaking a language I didn't understand. "Experience other men?" I repeated, my voice flat. Emma leaned forward, her eyes intense. "It's not as crazy as it sounds. Open marriages are a thing. Lots of couples explore. It's 2024, Danny. It doesn't have to be like our parents' generation where everyone just pretends they're not curious," she explained eagerly. "You're asking me for permission to cheat on me," I stated, my voice remaining eerily calm, surprising even myself. "It's not cheating if we both agree," she said quickly. "That's the whole point. We'd talk about it, set boundaries. Maybe you could even do the same. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the tile floor. Without a word, I walked to the hall closet and pulled out the vintage leather suitcase we'd bought for our honeymoon, the one with our initials, EW and DW embossed on the tag. What are you doing? Emma asked, her voice pitching higher. I set the suitcase on the floor between us. Pack! I ordered. Danny, please, she pleaded, eyes widening. I love you. I want to stay married. This isn't what? My voice finally broke. This isn't what? Tell me, Emma. What exactly did you think would happen? That I'd say, sure, honey, go f*** whoever you want and I'll just wait here until you've checked everything off your sexual bucket list? I demanded. She flinched at my language. I rarely swore, rarely raised my voice. I just thought we could talk about it, she whispered. Like adults. Please, can we just forget I said anything? I didn't mean... That's not toothpaste you can put back in the tube, I interrupted, gesturing to the suitcase. Pack what you need for now. You can get the rest later. Emma started crying then, those silent tears that tracked mascara down her cheeks. She begged, pleaded, tried to touch me. I stepped back each time, a wall building inside me with every word she spoke. Later, after she'd finally gone to our bedroom, I made up the guest bed for myself. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying 12 years in my mind like a highlight reel. Every kiss, every promise, every plan. I wondered when I'd stopped being enough for her. I wondered when she'd decided that everything we built was worth gambling. I wondered if she'd already picked out the man who would be first. I didn't sleep. Who could sleep? I lay in the guest room, listening to Emma's muffled sobs through the wall, feeling nothing but a strange, hollow emptiness where my heart should be. When the first gray light of dawn filtered through the blinds, I got up. My body moved mechanically, shower, shave, dress, while my mind remained detached, already making lists, planning. By 7, I was at the kitchen table with my laptop, researching divorce attorneys. I found one who offered a free phone consultation at 8 a.m. and marked the number. Then I navigated to their website and printed out their preliminary separation documents, a starting point, they called it. Black and white pages that would dismantle 12 years in clinical legal language. When I heard Emma stirring, I made the call. The attorney was brisk, professional, outlining the process in North Carolina for a no-fault divorce. I took notes, asked questions about the house, our savings, the timeline. He promised to email me more detailed information and forms by noon. I hung up just as Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked terrible. Hair tangled, eyes swollen and red, wearing one of my t-shirts that hung to her knees. Her expression was cautiously hopeful, as if she'd convinced herself overnight that I'd calmed down, that we could pretend last night never happened. Then she saw the phone in my hand, the papers on the table, and something in her face changed. Panic turned to anger. "Are you serious right now?" she asked, her voice raspy from crying. "Yes," I answered, sliding the papers into a folder. "You're throwing away 12 years of marriage over one conversation," she demanded, stepping into the kitchen with arms crossed defensively over her chest. "No, Emma. I'm ending our marriage over the conversation where my wife asked for permission to sleep with other men before having my children," I corrected, my voice steady, almost clinical. "There's a difference. Where am I supposed to go?" She protested, gesturing wildly around the kitchen. "This is my house too. You have parents 20 minutes away. You have friends. You have a master's degree and a job. You'll figure it out," I stated, standing up. "I want you out by the end of the week." Emma's mouth fell open. "You can't just kick me out," she exclaimed. "I'm not kicking you out. I'm asking for space while we begin legal separation. The house, the assets, all of that will be sorted through the proper channels," I explained, closing my laptop. "I packed your essentials while you were sleeping. Toiletries, a week's worth of clothes, your laptop, chargers. The black suitcase is in the hall. You went through my things? While I was sleeping?" Her voice rose in pitch. "Who are you? I don't even recognize you right now." "Funny. I was thinking the same thing last night," I replied, pouring myself a cup of coffee, the mundane action at odds with the conversation. "You should call your parents. Or Sarah, she has that spare room. Emma's face crumpled then, anger giving way to desperation. Danny, please. I made a mistake. I never meant it. It was just a thought. I would never have actually done anything. Please, can we just talk about this? Go to counseling? She begged. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd planned to have children with. The woman who'd held me when my dad died 3 years ago. The woman who, less than 12 hours ago, had casually suggested she needed to f*** other men before settling down with me for good. There's nothing to talk about, I stated calmly, feeling strangely detached now. I'll never be able to unhear what you said. I'll never be able to trust that you won't need to explore again when you get bored with me in 5 years, in 10 years. I'm not living my life waiting for the other shoe to drop. She followed me around the kitchen, grabbing at my arm, her voice increasingly frantic. You're being cruel, heartless. This isn't you, Danny. You're the most understanding person I know. Please just listen to me, she pleaded. I gently removed her hand from my arm. The legal stuff will get sorted out. Right now, I need you gone, I said firmly. Emma didn't wait until the end of the week. She didn't even wait until the end of the day. 3 hours later, she had packed her car with more than just the black suitcase. She'd filled 2 garbage bags with clothes, taken her jewelry box, her favorite books, her side of the bathroom cabinet. She worked in frenzied silence, refusing to look at me as I sat at the kitchen table, filling out preliminary paperwork. When she finally headed for the door, I stood up. Some part of me, the part still in shock, the part that had loved her for 12 years, wanted to stop her. To say we could figure this out. But the larger part, the part that couldn't unhear her words, remained silent. Emma paused at the door, her face tear-stained but suddenly fierce. You know what? Fine. If you're going to be like this, so quick to throw everything away without even talking, then maybe we shouldn't be married, she spat. She stepped onto the porch. You're making a mistake, Danny. You're going to regret this when you calm down. When you remember that nobody's perfect, that marriage is about forgiveness. Goodbye, Emma, I said quietly. She screamed at me from the driveway, all pretense of reconciliation gone. You're destroying our life! I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry! You'll regret this, Danny! You'll see, she shouted. I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to her car start, then drive away. The house fell silent. Even the cats seemed subdued, cautiously approaching me as if sensing something fundamental had changed. I walked back to the dining room, where our half-eaten pasta still sat on the table from the night before. I sat down, put my head in my hands, and felt nothing but hollow relief. For the first time since Emma had spoken those fateful words, I could breathe again. The next few weeks became a strange, exhausting limbo. By day, I taught high school chemistry, explaining electron configurations and balancing equations as if my personal life hadn't imploded. By night, I met with lawyers, filled out paperwork, and dodged Emma's increasingly desperate attempts at contact. The voicemails started at 2 a.m., 3 days after she left. Her voice tearful, slurring slightly. Danny, please call me back. I miss you. I miss us. I made a horrible mistake. Please just talk to me, she pleaded into my voicemail. A week later, she showed up at school during my lunch break, forcing me to have the vice principal escort her from the building while my students watched wide-eyed through the classroom window. That night, her mother called, her voice conciliatory and manipulative by turns. Emma is just confused right now, Daniel. She's going through something. Young people these days have all these ideas from the internet, Mrs. Parker explained. Her voice turned pleading. She loves you. She's devastated. Can't you at least meet with her? Hear her out? I gave Mrs. Parker the same answer I'd given the lawyers, the same answer I'd written in my response to Emma's frantic texts. She asked to sleep with other men. I said no. End of story. But the story, it turned out, was just beginning, at least the public version. The first hint came from Mark and Jessica, a couple we'd known since college. Mark called on a Thursday night, his voice careful, measured. Hey man, Jess and I were wondering if you wanted to grab a beer this weekend. Talk things out? He suggested. Talk what out? I asked, a pause. You know, the situation with Emma. She's pretty broken up about it, he explained awkwardly. Did she tell you what happened? I asked, already knowing the answer. She said you guys were having some issues. Something about her wanting more freedom in the relationship, and you... Well, she said you kind of exploded, Mark admitted hesitantly. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. That's not what happened, Mark. Did she tell you she asked permission to sleep with other men before we had kids? I challenged. Silence. Then, no. She definitely didn't mention that part, he replied, clearly taken aback, but not everyone bothered to ask for my version. Through the grapevine, primarily Chris, my best friend since high school and the one person who refused to give Emma the benefit of the doubt, I learned she was crafting a narrative. In her version, I was controlling. I wouldn't let her have female friends. I monitored her social media. I exploded at the mere suggestion that we needed to open up communication in our marriage. Some people believed her. Lisa and Ron, a couple we often double-dated with, uninvited me from their annual Halloween party to avoid drama. At the grocery store, I caught Sandra, Emma's co-worker, giving me a cold look over the produce section. People are idiots, Chris said over beers in my kitchen, 3 weeks after Emma left. They believe what they want to believe. And Emma's playing the victim card hard, he observed, taking a swig from his bottle. Has she said anything to you? I asked, picking at the label on my beer bottle. Chris hesitated. She texted me last week, asked if I'd talk some sense into you. I told her I knew the real story and to lose my number, he admitted. But, there's something else you should know. She's on dating apps already. Hinge, Bumble, all of them. Ellie saw her profile. Ellie was Chris's wife who'd been friends with Emma since college. The information should have hurt. Instead, it just felt pathetic. The moment she asked, she already cheated in her heart, Chris continued, echoing what I'd been telling myself for weeks. You just saved yourself years of wondering when she'd actually do it. The next day, I ran into Sarah, Emma's closest friend, at the coffee shop near our house. Our house, I still thought of it, though Emma hadn't been back in almost a month. Sarah spotted me, then made a beeline for my table, her expression a mix of determination and awkwardness. Daniel, she greeted, sliding into the seat across from me without asking. How are you? Fine, Sarah, you? I replied evenly. I'm worried about you two, she confessed, leaning forward. Have you considered couples therapy? Emma says she's willing. She says she'd do anything. I set down my coffee. Can I ask you something, Sarah? If your husband asked to sleep with other women before having kids with you, would you go to therapy or would you go to a lawyer? I questioned directly. Sarah blinked rapidly. It's not that simple, she started. It is, actually, I interrupted. She left without ordering her coffee. Amid the chaos, an unexpected connection formed. Rachel Davis, a fellow chemistry teacher I'd known casually for the past year, stopped by my classroom after the final bell one Friday. She leaned against the doorframe, her curly red hair pulled back in a messy bun. Wearing jeans and a Star Wars t-shirt. Casual Friday attire. Heard through the teacher grapevine that you're going through it, she said without preamble. Divorce? I nodded, somewhat taken aback by her directness. Been there, 6 months ago, she shared, stepping into the room. My ex-husband wanted an open marriage after a decade together. Said it was time to evolve. I looked up, genuinely surprised by this coincidence. What happened? I asked. I said no. He said he needed it to be happy. So I filed for divorce, she explained with a shrug, but I could see the lingering hurt in her eyes. Want to grab coffee? Not as a date, she added quickly. Just as two people who understand a specific kind of betrayal. At the coffee shop, not the one near my house, but one across town where we were less likely to run into people we knew, Rachel and I talked for 2 hours. Not just about our failed marriages, though that was the entry point. Also about teaching, about books, about the awful school cafeteria food. It was the first normal conversation I'd had in weeks. As we were leaving, Rachel said something that lodged in my chest. The hardest part is everyone else thinking you should have compromised. Like your boundaries made you the bad guy. I felt seen for the first time since Emma had uttered those 5 words that shattered everything. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Quick, clean, no kids to complicate things. I kept the house. She got half the savings. And according to mutual friends, she got exactly what she wanted, the freedom to explore. I didn't care anymore. Or at least I told myself I didn't. 6 months after signing the final divorce papers, I stood in what used to be our guest room, now transformed into a home office with a desk I'd built myself, walls painted a deep blue that Emma would have hated. The cats, Luna and Orion, sprawled across the windowsill in patches of afternoon sun. From the backyard came the excited barking of Copper, the rescue dog I'd adopted 3 months ago, a lab mix with one floppy ear and boundless energy who still hadn't convinced the cats to be his friends. The house felt different now. I'd rearranged furniture, replaced the bedding, hung new art. I'd started cooking recipes that had nothing to do with Emma's preferences: spicy curries, elaborate stir-fries, things she would have wrinkled her nose at. Small reclamations that added up to something larger. This space was mine now. Shaped by my choices alone, I ran into old friends sometimes, at the grocery store, at the gym, who would ask cautiously how I was doing. I could see it in their eyes. They expected me to be broken, diminished, still bleeding from the wound of Emma's departure. I wasn't. I was tired, yes, sometimes lonely but also lighter. Like I'd set down a heavy bag I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. Work became my sanctuary. My students, perceptive as teenagers often are, noticed the change in me. "You seem happier, Mr. Wright," Zoe, a junior with a gift for chemistry, commented one day after class. "More present," she observed. She wasn't wrong. I'd started an after-school chemistry club that focused on practical experiments, making soap, brewing root beer, creating biodegradable plastics. To my surprise, it became popular, drawing students who'd never shown much interest in science before. The principal stopped by one afternoon and mentioned, with a hint of wonder, that I seemed to have gotten my spark back. It was an unintentional reminder that people had noticed my decline in that final year with Emma, even if I hadn't recognized it myself. How long had I been fading, becoming a muted version of myself to accommodate her restlessness? Rachel and I started dating officially 4 months after my divorce. We approached it slowly, carefully, deliberately. On our third date, sitting in a quiet corner of a tapas restaurant, we had honest conversations about our respective divorces. He framed it as evolving together, Rachel said, twisting the stem of her wine glass. Said if we really loved each other, we'd want each other to experience everything life had to offer. "I actually tried it for 3 months, she admitted. "You did," I responded, unable to hide my surprise. She nodded, her expression clouded with remembered pain. I thought maybe I was being too traditional, too closed-minded. "So I agreed to an open marriage with strict rules. Always tell the other person, no mutual friends, no emotional attachments." She laughed bitterly. 2 weeks in, I found out he'd been sleeping with a coworker for 6 months already. The whole ethical non-monogamy thing was just his retroactive justification. "I'm sorry," I said, reaching for her hand across the table. "Don't be," she replied, squeezing my hand. "I learned something valuable. I'd rather be alone than compromise my self-respect." She paused thoughtfully. "What about you? Do you ever wonder if you should have tried harder with Emma? Gone to therapy?" I considered the question seriously. "No," I answered finally. The moment she asked that question, something fundamental broke. I couldn't unhear it, couldn't unthink it. Every time I looked at her afterward, I just kept wondering when she'd leave, who she'd be with. "That's no way to live." Rachel nodded, understanding in her eyes. "You chose yourself. There's courage in that," she affirmed. Our relationship developed differently than what I'd had with Emma. It wasn't the frantic, all-consuming college romance where we built our identities around being a couple. It was adult, intentional. We maintained separate apartments for the first few months. We didn't rush into physical intimacy. We talked, really talked, about what we wanted, what we feared, what we'd learned from our failed marriages. Rachel had a 14-year-old daughter, Mia, from her previous marriage. She shared custody with her ex, having Mia every other week and alternating holidays. I met Mia casually at first. No pressure, no forced bonding. Just stopping by to drop off something for Rachel, joining them for pizza one night, helping Mia with a chemistry project when she mentioned struggling in science class. "You explain it better than my teacher," Mia said afterward, giving me a tentative smile. No offense to Mrs. Rodriguez. None taken, I reassured her with a wink. I'll pass that along in the teacher's lounge. Her smile widened at my response. It wasn't always smooth. Mia had her moments of teenage attitude, especially on days when she'd just returned from her dad's house. Rachel and I had our disagreements about schedules, about how much time to spend together, about the future. But we talked through them, without the weight of a decade of accumulated grievances that had burdened my conversations with Emma toward the end. One Saturday in early spring, Rachel and I were at the farmer's market, debating the merits of different types of honey, when I spotted Jessica, Emma's cousin, across the crowded aisle. She did a double take, her eyes widening when she saw Rachel laughing at something I'd said, her hand casual on my arm. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a blurry photo, clearly taken at the market. Rachel and I smiling at each other over a display of local cheeses. The message read simply, "Really? Already?" I showed Rachel the text. Her expression darkened momentarily, then cleared. "The right person doesn't make you feel guilty for moving forward," she observed, curling up beside me on the couch. "They celebrate that you're happy." I realized then that I'd never felt that with Emma. There had always been an undercurrent of needing to prove my devotion, to be enough. Rachel didn't need me to be anything other than who I was. The revelation was both simple and profound. 9 months after my divorce, Rachel and I moved in together, her place, not mine, because it was closer to Mia's school and felt like neutral territory, unburdened by the ghosts of previous relationships. We blended our lives carefully, my books next to hers on the shelves, my coffee mugs alongside her tea collection, Copper learning to coexist with her elderly cat, Mr. Darcy. It felt like building something from scratch with quality materials, rather than renovating a structure with a cracked foundation. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. Almost exactly a year after Emma packed her bags, my phone lit up with a message from an unblocked number. I didn't recognize it at first. Then I saw the name, Emma. Sunday morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, casting long rectangles of gold across the hardwood floor. Rachel sat at the table in her pajamas, reading the weekend paper and absently scratching Mr. Darcy behind the ears. Copper circled my feet as I flipped pancakes. His nose raised hopefully each time I set down the spatula. "You know," Rachel remarked, not looking up from her newspaper, "we should take that Portland trip next month. Mia has a 4-day weekend for teacher conferences." "Sounds good to me," I agreed, sliding a pancake onto a plate. Weather should be decent in May. It was an ordinary moment, domestic, peaceful hours. The kind of moment that had once seemed impossible during those dark weeks after Emma left. My phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it, expecting a text from Chris about our planned hike later that afternoon. Instead, an unfamiliar number appeared on the screen, with a preview that made my stomach drop. "Danny, it's Emma. I know you blocked my old number, but please..." I hesitated, finger hovering over the notification. Part of me wanted to delete it unread, to maintain the clean break that had allowed me to rebuild my life. But curiosity, or perhaps some lingering need for closure, won out. I opened the message. It was long, the paragraph stretching down the screen like a digital confession. "Danny, it's Emma. I know you blocked my old number, but please read this before deleting. I've spent a year trying to understand what I threw away, and I can't stop thinking about what an idiot I was. I've dated around a dozen men in the past year, some briefly, a few for months. None of it was what I expected. The men were shallow, treating me like a conquest or a placeholder. The intimacy was empty, mechanical, nothing like what we had. I thought I was missing out on something profound, but I only discovered how rare what we had truly was. I realize now I made the biggest mistake of my life. I let insecurity and FOMO poison the best thing that ever happened to me. I let stupid internet articles and friends' stupid stories make me think I was missing something. I want to try again, Danny. I want to come home. I'll do therapy, I'll work for it, I'll spend years earning back your trust if that's what it takes. I just need a chance to show you I'm still the woman you loved. I'm still your Emma. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. Can we meet? Can we just talk? I'm still your Emma. I'm still the girl who laughed at your jokes. I'm still here, Danny. Please. I read it 3 times, searching my heart for any flicker of longing, any urge to respond with something other than rejection. There was nothing, just a mild sadness for the woman I'd once loved or thought I'd loved. Rachel noticed my expression. "Everything okay?" she asked, setting down her paper. Without comment, I handed her the phone. She read Emma's message, her face carefully neutral, then set the phone down on the table between us. "What do you want to do?" she asked simply. It was the right question. Not, "What are you going to do?" or "You're not considering this, are you?" Just, "What do you want?" I picked up the phone, staring at Emma's words. A year ago, they would have leveled me. 6 months ago, they would have made me angry. Now, they felt like a message from someone I used to know, sad but distant. I typed several responses, deleting each one. Too angry, too detailed, too much like I still cared. Finally, I settled on something simple. "Emma, I don't doubt that you regret your choice, but the woman I married would never have asked that question in the first place. That woman is gone. Maybe she never existed the way I thought she did. I've moved on. I'm happy. I'm with someone who never made me feel like I wasn't enough. I hope you find whatever you're looking for, but it isn't going to be with me. Take care." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then, before she could respond with more pleas or justifications, I blocked the number. Rachel watched me do this, her expression soft. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. "Yeah," I answered, and realized with mild surprise that it was true. I really am. I set the phone face down on the table and went back to making pancakes. Rachel returned to her newspaper. Copper continued his hopeful kitchen patrol. Life continued, undisturbed by the ghost of a past that no longer had power over me. Later that afternoon, as Rachel and I were loading Copper into the car for a hike, my phone rang. It was Chris. "Hey man, just giving you a heads up. Emma's been reaching out to everyone asking for your address, for Rachel's last name, for any way to contact you," he warned. "She's saying you blocked her before she could explain properly, that there's been a misunderstanding." He paused. "She might show up at your place." "Thanks for the warning," I replied. Glancing at the house I'd shared with Emma, the house I'd sold 2 months ago, using the equity to help Rachel buy her place outright. But she doesn't know where I live now. She doesn't know Rachel's last name, doesn't know about Mia. She has no way to reach me. "Good," Chris affirmed. "You deserve your peace, man." After hanging up, I pulled Rachel close, kissing the top of her head. "Emma's apparently on the warpath," I informed her. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" she asked. "No," I assured her, meaning it. "She has no connection to this life." "No way in." I deleted Emma's message entirely. Deleted the screenshots. Deleted every digital trace of her asking to come back. Because the best revenge wasn't making her suffer. It was being so completely happy that she realized she was irrelevant. We took Copper for his hike. We talked about dinner plans, about Mia's upcoming volleyball tournament, about whether we should plant vegetables or flowers in the backyard bed. Normal, beautiful, ordinary life. The revenge wasn't elaborate. It wasn't public humiliation or financial ruin. It was simply this. I had become completely unreachable. Emma discovered that you can't go home when home doesn't exist anymore. She wanted to press pause on our marriage and found out I had pressed stop instead. "Dad, where's my volleyball knee pads?" Mia's voice echoed down the hallway, followed by the sound of drawers being yanked open. "Laundry room top shelf," I called back, adjusting the mobile above the crib. Planets and stars dangling in scientifically accurate arrangements. "Your mom washed them yesterday." "Found them. Thanks." Footsteps thundered down the stairs, followed by Copper's excited scrabbling as he followed his favorite human. I stepped back, surveying the nursery. 2 years after my divorce from Emma, my life was unrecognizable, in the best possible way. Rachel and I had gotten married in a small ceremony last fall, with Mia as the maid of honor. Rachel was now 7 months pregnant with our first child together. A boy we planned to name Thomas after my grandfather. Professionally, I'd thrived in ways I never had while married to Emma. I'd earned tenure and been appointed department head. The chemistry club I'd started had won regional competitions. My students had nominated me for a Teaching Excellence Award. I realize now how much emotional energy I'd spent trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided I wasn't. "Mom! Daniel, I'm leaving for practice!" Mia called up the stairs. At 15, she still called me Daniel, but introduced me as my stepdad, with clear affection. Through Chris, who still kept loose tabs on mutual friends, I occasionally heard about Emma's trajectory. After dating prolifically for 18 months, she'd finally started therapy, dealing with what her therapist apparently called fear of. Commitment disguised as fear of missing out. She was dating someone steadily now, an older, divorced professor who seems kind but definitely doesn't worship her the way Daniel did. They maintained separate apartments. Emma's social media displayed a carefully curated life. Brunches, gym selfies, motivational quotes. The comments were sparse. Her friend group had clearly fractured after the divorce. Perhaps the most telling detail came 6 months ago, when Emma's mother sent me a Facebook friend request with a message apologizing for not understanding what Emma put you through and saying she still wished I was her son-in-law. Even Emma's own mother recognized who was at fault. Later that evening, my phone pinged with a FaceTime call from Mia. "Look what I got for the baby!" she exclaimed, holding up a handmade mobile with tiny chemistry beakers. I made it for my brother. I thought about Emma briefly, not with anger or bitterness, but with strange gratitude. Her betrayal had freed me to find something real. People sometimes asked if I regretted how quickly I ended things. I always told them the truth. The woman I married would never have asked that question. The moment Emma wanted to sleep with other men, she stopped being my wife. I didn't regret choosing myself. I didn't regret having standards. I didn't regret walking away. The baby kicked and Rachel laughed, grabbing my hand to feel it. Mia squealed from the phone. Copper barked excitedly at the commotion. "This is home! This is enough. This is everything." And somewhere out there, Emma is learning that some doors once closed don't open again. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.